Welcome back to episode 3. So far, we've built awareness, why the change is happening, and desire, why people want to be part of it. Now comes the question every leader has asked at least once. How do we actually train people on the new way of working? And just as importantly, how do we make sure they remember any of it a month later? This is knowledge, the K in ADKAR. Let me start with a number that should change how every organization thinks about training. Roughly 70% of new information is forgotten within 24 hours. It's called the forgetting curve, and it's been documented for over 100 years. A day-long training with no follow-up leaves almost nothing behind. Knowledge that isn't practiced isn't learned, which means if your training strategy is book everyone into an 8-hour workshop before go live, you are statistically doing nothing. Knowledge is not a moment, it is a process. And once you understand that, everything about how you design training changes. 4 things in the next 15 minutes. First, the critical distinction between knowledge and ability, the one that saves months of wasted training. Second, the 70-20-10 model, where real learning actually happens, and why the classroom is only 10% of it. Third, 7 design principles that make training stick. Not theory, practical techniques. And fourth, the common traps that waste training budgets and burn out learners. Let's get started. Quick reminder of where we are in ADKAR. Awareness, the why. Desire, the want. Today is knowledge, the how. And next episode is ability, which is about the actual doing. Knowledge and ability feel like the same thing, but they absolutely aren't. Confusing them is one of the most expensive mistakes I see. Which brings us to today's most important slide. So what is knowledge exactly? Prosci defines it simply. Knowledge is understanding how to change, but there are actually 2 types inside that. First, knowledge to change. What's shifting? The new process, the new tool, the new expectations. And second, knowledge to perform. The specific skills and behaviors needed to actually do the new work. Most training covers the first and skips the second. That's why people finish training, feel informed, and then freeze when Monday morning comes. Here's the distinction that matters most. Knowledge is not ability. Think about swimming. You can read every book on swimming. You can watch hours of videos. You can describe the stroke, the kick, the breathing pattern perfectly. That's knowledge. But can you actually swim? Only practice answers that. Knowledge lives in training rooms. It's fast to acquire, it's conceptual, and you can describe the steps. Ability is built by doing. It takes reps, it takes time, and it's what actually gets performed when the stakes are real. Change leaders confuse the 2 constantly. They finish a training course and declare people ready. They're not ready. They're informed. Today, we're focused on knowledge. Episode 4 tackles ability. You need both. UDE Part 1. How learning actually works. The science is clear. Most organizations design training as if it weren't. Here's the framework that should reshape every training budget on the planet. It's called the 70-20-10 model, and it comes from decades of research at the Center for Creative Leadership. Here's what it says. 70% of how people actually learn at work comes from experience. On the job practice, real problems, real stakes. 20% comes from exposure, learning from peers, coaching, mentoring, watching someone senior do the work. And just 10% comes from formal education. Classrooms, courses, training days, 10%. Read that again. Only 10% of how people truly learn at work happens in the thing most organizations spend 80% of their training budget on. This is what I call the inversion problem. Most organizations spend roughly 80% of their training budget on the 10% of learning that matters least. Meanwhile, 90% of real learning happens through practice and peers, and almost no budget goes there. No wonder training feels expensive and ineffective. It is. You don't have to stop doing classroom training. Just stop pretending it's the whole solution. For every hour you spend in a training room, spend 3 hours designing what happens next. The practice, the peer coaching, the job aids, the follow-up. That's where knowledge actually becomes lasting capability. Part 2, 7 Design Principles for Training That Sticks. What changes everything about how people learn? And remember, Principle 1, start with the job, not the topic. Most training is designed around the tool. Here are the 15 features of Copilot and how each one works. That's a feature tour. It teaches nothing useful. Great training is designed backwards from the work. Here's how to prepare for your Monday status meeting in 5 minutes using Copilot. Same tool, same features, completely different retention. Why? Because the brain remembers things it can immediately use. Feature lists go in one ear and out the other. A real task, solved in front of the learner, sticks. Before you design any training, ask one question. What is the specific work moment this person will use this in? Build backwards from that. Principle 2, chunk it. Short beats long, every time. The human brain holds roughly 7 pieces of information at once. Pushing 50 into a 2-hour session doesn't make it sink in. It makes it bounce off. The sweet spot for a single learning unit is about 5 minutes. 1 skill per unit, not one course, 1 moment of work. 3 to 7 minutes each, short enough to watch between meetings. 1 clear outcome. By the end, you can do one thing and make it searchable and replayable so people can find it when they actually need it, not when they file it in a folder. This is why microlearning works so well. It respects how the brain actually stores information. Principle 3, learn by doing, not by watching. There's an old Benjamin Franklin line. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. Involve me and I learn. 200 years old and cognitive science keeps proving it right. 4 practical techniques. Sandbox environments. A safe space to break things without consequences. Real work assignments. Homework on their actual data, not made-up cases. Practice before you preach. Let them try first, then teach what they missed. People learn more from 1 minute of personal struggle than 10 minutes of perfect demonstration. And show, don't tell. Walk through the task live on screen, not in slides about the task. If someone leaves a session without having tried the thing themselves, you haven't trained them. You've performed for them. Principle 4. Space it out, don't cram it. This is maybe the most counterintuitive principle on the list. Every study across every field agrees. Learning distributed over time massively beats learning massed into one session. Here's the comparison. Cram it. 1 8-hour training day. Retention after 30 days, about 20%. People forget faster than you can teach. Now space it out. 30 minutes once a week for 4 weeks. Same total time. Retention after 30 days, around 80%. Each session reinforces the last. 4 times better retention, same cost. And yet every organization keeps booking those intense one-day workshops because they feel efficient. They're not. They're just easy to calendar. Give people time to forget and then remind them. That's the magic. Principle 5. Match the learner, not a persona. One-size-fits-all training fits almost no one. Different people need different things, and good design respects that. Beginners need scaffolded steps, plenty of examples, and patient pacing. Don't skip the basics because you find them boring. Experts need the opposite: shortcuts, edge cases, and permission to skip what they already know. Nothing alienates a senior employee faster than a 101 lesson they've sat through twice. Visual learners need diagrams, demos, screen recordings, not walls of text. And skeptics need proof it works. Case studies, outcomes, someone they trust saying this actually helped me. Same topic. 4 very different flavors of delivery. Principle 6. Blend the learning channels. No single channel builds real knowledge. Layer 3 to 5 for best results. Short videos are great for intro concepts and demos, but weak for deep practice. Live workshops are powerful for discussion and Q&A, but weak for scale and replay. Hands-on labs are where real skill gets built, but they're hard to run in huge groups. Job aids, those one-page references, are perfect for in-the-moment help, but don't teach concepts. Peer coaching builds confidence and context, but it's a nightmare to schedule. And reference docs are great for deep lookup, weak for engagement. The best designed training programs pick 3 or 4 of these and layer them on purpose, each covering the gaps of the others. The point isn't variety, it's coverage. Principle 7. Build job aids, not just courses. Here's a truth I wish I'd learned earlier. A 1-page reference used daily beats a 2-day course forgotten by Friday. Performance support beats training. People don't want to become experts. They want to get the task done right now. Give them the shortest path. 5 types of job aids that work brilliantly. Quick reference cards, laminated, 1 page, sitting on the desk. Decision trees. If X, then Y, flowcharts for common situations. Searchable FAQs, with questions written the way people actually ask them, not the way you'd file them. Prompt libraries. Copy-paste ready patterns for AI tools like Copilot. And short video clips, 30-second how do I answers, findable in under 10 seconds. Invest in these. They pay off every single day. Part 3. The traps to avoid. The patterns that waste training budgets and burn out learners. The biggest trap, by far, is what I call training theater. This is when training exists not to actually change how people work, but to look like training happened, to check a box, to say we did enablement. 4 warning signs. Attendance is the metric. 98% of staff completed the training tells you absolutely nothing about what they learned or whether they use it. Generic content, universal rollout, the same deck for everyone from CEO to frontline. No one's job improves. No practice, no follow-up. A one-time webinar with no workflow change behind it is a checkbox, not learning. And certificate as the outcome. If the deliverable is a PDF people post on LinkedIn, you've measured the wrong thing. Training theater feels productive because it's easy to count. Real training is messier, harder, and dramatically more effective. 5 specific mistakes to avoid. 1. Overloading the first day. Day 1 information dumps teach nothing and exhaust everyone. 2. Skipping the why in training. People retain what they understand the purpose of, even in technical training, give the context first. 3. Training weeks before go live. By launch day, half of what you taught is already gone. Train close to the moment of use. 4. Ignoring manager enablement. If managers don't know it, they can't coach it, and their team won't get support when they're stuck. And 5. Measuring completion, not capability. Attendance is easy to count. Actual skill is what matters. Avoid these 5 and you're already ahead of most training programs I've seen. Here's a model that will change how you measure training impact. It's called Kirkpatrick's 4 levels. Most organizations only measure level 1. Push further. Level 1, reaction. Did people like it? Easy to measure. Smile sheets, post-session surveys. Almost useless alone. People say they liked a session that taught them nothing all the time. Level 2, learning. Do they know it? Quick assessments, simple tests. Measures knowledge, but not skill. Level 3, behavior. Do they use it? This is where it gets real. Watch them work 30 days later. Are they actually applying what you taught? This is the real test, and this is the level almost nobody measures. And level 4, results. Did it move outcomes? Business metrics changed, time saved, errors reduced, revenue increased. If you want your training investment taken seriously by leadership, learn to measure at levels 3 and 4. Here's your toolkit, the knowledge checklist. Before you declare your training ready, run through this. Is training designed around jobs, not features? Are units 5 minutes or less, 1 skill each? Do learners practice on real-world tasks, not made-up scenarios? Are sessions spaced over weeks, not crammed into one day? Is content tailored for different audience levels, beginners through experts? Are at least 3 channels blended, not just slides? Do job aids exist for after the training ends? And, critically, do I measure behavior change, not just completion? If any of these are no, fix the missing piece before launching. 3 things to take away. First, knowledge is not ability. Teaching people how to do something is not the same as them being able to do it. Plan for practice, not just transfer. Second, only 10% of learning is training. The other 90% lives in practice and peers. Design for all three, and shift your budget to match where real learning actually happens. And third, short, spaced, and searchable wins. 5-minute chunks over 4 weeks beat an 8-hour day every single time. Build job aids people can find the moment they need them. That's episode 3, design training that lasts, not training that just fills a room. Next episode, we tackle ability, the second A in ADKAR, and the gap between knowing and doing. We'll cover how to turn knowledge into real performance, the role of coaching, and how to remove the barriers that stop people from using what they've learned. If this helped, subscribe, share it with someone who runs training at your organization, and I'll see you in episode 4.